Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Fifer. Served up by Wendy's on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan. Download the Wendy's app today.
I got to tell you something. I got to tell you what makes me smile, Charlie Usen. Made me smile right before I came on the air. A couple of girls that work here at State Fair come walking in for their job.
Yep.
Wearing the 1250 T-shirts.
Let's go.
Wearing the relief pitcher T-shirt. Showing us how they walk by us. Huh? Everybody's getting on board.
Awesome.
Everybody's getting on board with the fan right now. That is a beautiful thing at this point to have everybody on board with us out here. Also, I'll give you another quick story. So before we came on the air, one of our listeners came up to me, and he's like, Sparky, I got a question. He's like, it's a professional question. He goes, and I know you may be friends with everybody, at the other radio stations and stuff, but I got a question for you. I said, all right, what's your question? He was out here with his family, right? A couple kids, wife, the whole deal. I was like, what's your question? He's like, man, why doesn't anybody else in this market talk sports like you all talk sports? Why do they talk about everything else but sports on these other stations? He's like, I'm so glad you guys are back. I was like, well, I'm here to tell you, that's what the goal is going to be. If you want sports, you come into the fan, and we're talking sports one way or the other, not talking about other random crap like other stations do. So, yeah, I'm glad that people are taking notice of how we do business versus others. And, again, if you want random crap, there is definitely a place for you in this market to find random crap on the radio. If you want to talk about sports, no matter when you turn on the radio station, regardless of what time of day the show is at, you're going to hear actual sports talk. That's not guaranteed on every other station. It's sad, but that's what it is. Does that make sense, Charlie?
It makes a lot of sense. I think it's very simple. We talk sports, they're not. That's what it comes down to.
That to me is kind of our goal, our mantra. That's what we want to do. And as we add shows and so forth, that's going to continue to be the mantra of how we build this thing. As I like to say, we're building the station brick by brick, right? So now we've got Pack-A-Day Radio with Andy Herman, 8 to 9. The Mason Crosby Show, the Packers' all-time leading scorer from 9 to 11 every day. Then Rich Eisen. And then, of course, Wisconsin Sports Daily here, served up by Wendy's in the afternoon. We, of course, have the leadoff show, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, 1 hour before every Brewers game. And then Wisconsin Sports Weekend. With Charlie Usen and my guy Peacock over here at the Wisconsin State Fair. He's hanging out. Jack Pembroke will be out here. You don't know what happened with Peacock? Is Tommy Wirtz still there?
He is still here. Here.
Tommy, real quickly. Tommy and I were doing Thunder at the we were doing Mason Crosby show earlier today because Mason's off. Mason's at training camp up in Green Bay, taking things in. Mason will report back on Packers training camp when he's back on the show next week. And Mitch was down here, Thunder, who's normally the co-host on that show. He was down here getting ready for Thunder at the fair for 11 to 2, so he couldn't co-host with Tommy. So I said, I got it, I'll do it. So Tommy and I did the show. So we went to go do the mic test, and somebody's like, caw-caw, caw-caw, or some crap. I don't know what they were doing. And I could hear it in the speakers, which means everybody could hear it out here at the State Fair. And I'm trying to test with Jack. I was like, Jack, knock that crap off, man. And I took him out of cue. And Tommy was laughing, and he's like, that wasn't him. I'm like, I know it's not him. I guarantee you he overreacts and freaks out. And that's exactly what happened. So then when I came out of that break, I nicknamed him Peacock at that point, and then he really overreacted and started freaking out over here. Mitch is texting me. He's texting Tommy. Tommy's dying laughing at the whole situation we created. And it was a lot of fun. So that's where Peacock came from earlier today. And, Tommy, you would admit it was pretty funny for you and me. Nobody else may have got it, but we thought it was funny.
We were laughing very hard on the other end of the station, and while everyone else thought turmoil was ensuing, it was me and Sparky just stirring the pot the entire time.
Completely.
Like, I was ignoring text messages. Sparky was just sending back fine.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it was definitely
we don't have that many people working at the station. We can't alienate any
no,
of them.
I know, but when Sparky, it's a Friday, so Sparky was feeling a little troll in him, I could tell today. And I was not going to shy away from that form of Sparky.
Yeah, normally I don't, but today, yeah, you're right. It absolutely was. Last day of State Fair. Lots to talk about today. Brewers and Mets in town today. We'll talk with Drew Wagner as we go inside the clubhouse. Forbes Sports Brewers writer. Looking forward to talking to him coming up at 3 o'clock. Normally, We go inside the clubhouse, brought to you by Focus Baseball at 3:20 on Tuesdays and Fridays with Drew Wagner down at American Family Field. But with Pat Murphy speaking to the media, he's got to be on that presser and so forth. We want to make sure he's done in time to get to that presser. So we'll have him on then. Speaking of the Brewers, some updated transactions. And I got to say, it's not good news. It's just not good news, Brewers fans. This updated email we just got from the Brewers. Logan Henderson, who I love. I love Logan Henderson. I think Logan Henderson's going to be a top 3 pitcher in this rotation. Well, he's headed to the injured list. 15-day injured list with right elbow inflammation. The worst thing you can see on an email from the Brewers on a transaction is any pitcher and the words elbow inflammation after it, Charlie.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. It usually is a sign of before Tommy John surgery, something like that, some kind of injury to the UCL. The elbow soreness is the first step to that. So it's good that they're getting ahead of it, that they recognized and saw that already, but at the same time, that worries you a little bit.
It worries you a lot for me because I'm a worry ward. So Logan Henderson, the 15-day IL. And guess who gets recalled from AAA Nashville, huh? Tobias Myers back in a Brewers uniform again, replacing Logan Henderson headed to the IL. Now the question becomes, because I do not see it in front of me in an email, what now happens? Does Tobias Myers get inserted back into this rotation to get a start before they bring back Jacob Mizorowski? Does he get to start this weekend?
Probably. I don't see why not. I mean,
they could, you know what they do. They could take 2 pitchers and piggyback them and do it that way where Myers
Sparky,
pitches 3 innings.
Tomorrow Tobias Myers is listed as the probable now, according to the Milwaukee Brewers.
Right. So the question is, like I just was about to say, are they going to piggyback him? Right. So they're going to ask him to go one time through the rotation, get through it, and then they bring in Hall or Ashby to pitch another 3 innings to then get to the short relievers on the backside? Or are they going to let Tobias Myers go out there like a regular starter and actually pitch 5 or 6 innings in this game, depending on how he's doing? That, to me, is the question. And the question revolving around that is, one which I think I know the answer is, how much does Pat Murphy really trust Tobias Myers? Because he hasn't really trusted Tobias Myers most of the year. That's how he ended up in Nashville to begin with. And now he needs Tobias Myers in this spot start. So does he trust him to let him go? Or is the plan going in, you're going one time through, and then we're going to bring in a Hall or Ashby behind you to go the second time through? That's what I want to see, Charlie.
I mean, I think with Tobias Myers, it's a little bit of a different situation than maybe some of these other pitchers that they're doing that with. Dale Hall hasn't really pitched an entire season for this Milwaukee Brewers team. Aaron Ashby has, but he's been in the bullpen for a couple of years now, and that's kind of changed his viewpoint of where the trajectory of his career. I think with the Tobias Myers last season, he pitched the entire season as a starting pitcher. I think because of that, you don't really have to go in with this piggyback mindset with him because you know more recently that he can do that and pitch an entire game fully right away. And I think, yes, you want to keep trying these piggyback tactics because you're probably going to use them in the playoffs, like we've heard from Andrew Wagner and Tim Dillard with Jacob Mizorowski and guys like Brandon Woodruff, where you know they're not going to go longer. You're going to need some of these players to go behind them. You want to work that strategy now to be able to perfect it by that point. At the same time, I think you also want to save some of these arms. And this is going to be the second game of the series if he's a probable starter tomorrow. In a series that's really important, I think you want to save as many arms as possible for maybe a closer game, or in a game where you have a starting pitcher who's going to be useful in the playoffs as well.
Absolutely. I just got a text, and I've got to see if I can find it. Maybe you all can see if you can look as well. Oh, no, here we go. I got it. Never mind. The question was to me on text from a friend of mine, why not Chad Patrick in that position? And my immediate response was it probably didn't line up. And the reason it's not Chad Patrick was because he just pitched 2 days ago against Jacksonville was the last time he pitched in a game. He gave up 6 runs in 5 innings, including 2 home runs in that one. Chad Patrick's ERA now on the season is 4.39. Down at AAA, it looks like. He has a 5.91 ERA through 2 starts because obviously he gave up 6 runs this last outing. He's had 2 starts. So the reason it's not Chad Patrick is because he just pitched 2 days ago. And I'm guessing the reason it's Tobias Myers because, it lines up with the rotation, which is obviously lucky for Tobias Myers since he gets a chance to go out there and start. Speaking of that series this weekend between the Brewers and the Mets, Charlie Houston tells me it is sold out. So all 3 games this weekend are sold out, Charlie?
The game tonight is sold out for sure to this point. So that was Kurt Hogue that had put that out there. He said that was 3 hours ago that there were only 6 double seats left in the entire stadium, basically like 2 seats together where you could do that. So besides that, it's been completely sold out. This is the 6th out of 7 home games that the Brewers have had since the All-Star break that have been labeled as a sellout.
Now, this is an interesting series. We brought it up earlier today when I was filling in on the Mason Crosby show with Tommy Wirtz, and we were talking about the idea of, is this really a rivalry? Is this really a series where you look at it and go, oh, we want revenge because we got knocked out of the playoffs by the Mets last year? Again, the horrible memory, Charlie, that everybody has existing in their brain when you bring up the New York Mets.
A little bit of radicless about to Alonso.
Lindor at third, Nimmo at first. The pitch. Swing and a ball drilled. Right field. Freeling back at the wall. Out of here! It's out of here! Alonso, an opposite field home run, and the Mets have the lead.
What a horrible way to end your career as a Brewer for Devin Williams. I mean, what just an absolutely horrible way to end things. But again, he had so much success with his career with the Brewers, and to have that being the lasting memory for Brewers fans sucks. Now, having said that, Pete Alonso wasn't running his mouth in the post-game presser. Pete Alonso was pretty much telling you he knew what was coming before he threw it. That's disturbing as a fan. Like, how did you know that was, that's not good, right? That they were tipping pitches, relaying signs, whatever the case may be. But it wasn't that, right? It wasn't, as Tommy brought her up earlier, it wasn't Manny Machado, where you hold on to Manny Machado for 5-6 years and simply refuse to ever let your dislike for Manny Machado go. The question is this, and it's a pretty simple question, I think, at this point. How much does this series mean to you after last year's postseason heartbreak? How much does this season mean to you after last season's postseason heartbreak? Nicolay Law Fan Talk and text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Don't forget, you can watch us, stream us on YouTube. Search The Fan Milwaukee, whether it's Pack-A-Day Radio Show, the Mason Crosby Show, weekday mornings from 9 to 11, this show in the afternoons 2 to 5. Or any of our other programming as well. And we are out here at the Wisconsin State Fair right across from the Milk House. We'll take your calls coming up next. Again, Nicolay Law Fan Talk and text line 414-677-1250. Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. Sound off with a recorded voice message on your Odyssey app. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily. Served up by Wendy's live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios. Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Time for your fan weather forecast. Air quality alert again for our area. It's never going to go away.
I will say, it doesn't look like it, though.
I know it's not, I know that. It was not there. Before I left to come to State Fair, that air quality alert was not there. And now it's back again until 11 o'clock tonight. Air quality alert still in place, 11 o'clock tonight. Right now, 92 degrees at State Fair, a real feel of 98. A real feel of 98 out here at the State Fair as people are hustling to get inside the AC-driven Expo building right now to cool off inside. Low tonight of 75. Welcome in. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Live from the Wisconsin State Fair. Steve Sparky Fifer with you. We'll be talking more about this Brewers and Mets series right now. Talking about the idea of, we look at this series. They got a potential sellout. It looks like only a few seats left for tonight. It's going to be packed crowds in there tomorrow, packed crowds in there on Sunday. We played the horrible highlight of Devin Williams giving up that shot to Pete Alonso in the playoffs last year to end the Brewers. I mean, is this a series you circle on your calendar as a Brewers fan and go, oh, yeah, I'm going. I'm booing the Mets. Screw the Mets. They got David Stearns. Mad about that. Screw Pete Alonso and these guys. Like, are we on board? Are we fired up about this Mets series and getting out there and taking on the Mets? Because I'll be honest with you, it doesn't do nearly as much for me as maybe some other teams. Nikolai Law fan talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. And if we're being honest about things here, Charlie, this Mets team has not been very good as of late. This Mets team, as was the case with the Trader and the Cubs, they were due for a breakout game here, and the Cubs got it the last day of that series after the Brewers took the first two. I'm telling you, we are in the same boat as we were going into that Cubs series, where this is a struggling Mets team right now, and when they come in, will the Brewers be able to keep them down like they've been playing the last few games? Because, again, as we've talked about, when you're bad and things are rolling downhill, it's how does a team stay together? Can a manager keep them together to stop them from rolling downhill, or rolling uphill, I guess, or whatever you want to say, pushing uphill, to try and get it going back the other way and change momentum? And normally that's a big hit, that's a come-from-behind win. Something crazy like that has to happen in order to do that. And if the Brewers just do their job and pitch well, and now you're without Logan Henderson tomorrow, as he's headed to the IL, so you're going to go with Tobias Myers. If you can just pitch well, keep these low-scoring games, I think the Brewers got a chance to win another series.
I think so. I think this is kind of at the point in the season now where I've seen enough from this Brewers team where there's not too many series left in the year that I expect the Brewers to lose at this point. I'm going to expect most of them that this Brewers team can go out there and win, especially the way that they've been playing over the course of the past couple weeks since the end of the All-Star break. I think when I'm looking at this Mets series and I watch that playoff series from last year again, see the highlights over again, listen to the highlights over again, I have to remind myself that the Mets, kind of going into the playoffs last year, were in the same boat that they were in right now. They were struggling at this point in the season last year, and then they got it going in that last month of the season and took that all the way to an NLCS appearance. I mean, these are the things you have to kind of look at this team and say, you know what? This is a Mets team that is struggling right now. But at the same time, they're 63-52. They still have a over 500 record. They're still playing all right baseball, and they have a very talented roster. You can't take them lightly, even if you do have those expectations to win every series at this point in the season.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, too. And, the other thing, too, is this roster is a little bit different from where it was last year, even at this point. I mean, Caleb Durbin wasn't involved in that nonsense, right? Isaac Collins didn't play a major role one way or the other with the Brewers. Andrew Vaughn wasn't in the organization. So a lot of these dudes weren't involved in that heartbreak that happened last year. Now, again, you got the mainstays, right? Contreras and Yelich and those guys. I just don't get the sense that there was anger towards those dudes at any point. Like, when things were going bad with La Russa and Matheny, you could feel anger from the Brewers clubhouse towards the Cardinals. Like, they had their fill of holier-than-thou La Russa telling them how to play the game of baseball. La Russa going at reporters in the after the game or whatever in the office. All that stuff. That got them mad. The Cubs thing, the Trader and all of that, that's a whole nother thing, right, that we talk about. And listen, when we talk about rivalries, I always say it's more about the player-coach rivalries, and there's not many of those in sports. If we're being honest, there's not many. Many people say, it's about the fan rivalry one way or the other. And there's got to be kind of give and take on both, where both fans don't like each other, right? That's kind of how it has to go. This deal now with the Brewers and the Cubs is a fan rivalry, I think, more than it is a player rivalry. And I don't really know if the Brewers even really have a true player rivalry, do they, at this point. The Cubs series, I think, feels bigger because of all the added people that show up for these games. The Brewers talked about it last series. Like, they felt like playoff games because they were sold out, packed houses, and the intensity level was high because of what the fans brought to the games.
I think when you look at that kind of rivalry that the fans have with each other, I think it also goes to the media and the rivalry that I think they want. They see the Packers-Bears starting to kind of get reignited a little bit here. The NFC North in general is just starting to become a little bit of a hotbed between all four of those teams. I think places like ESPN that are trying to find any way to boost their MLB coverage because their MLB coverage is not very good, like to see that the Cubs and the Brewers are going at it with each other at the top of the NL Central. And whether or not there's any kind of hate there between Craig Counsell and the few players that are left on that Brewers roster is real or not, which I don't really think it is. I think most of those players understand what Craig Counsell did and would have done the same thing as him if they were given the same opportunity. So I don't see that there, but I also feel like that the more you keep playing these series, because both those teams are extremely young teams, that the more you build those and the more that some of these young players start facing each other more, the more that the Cubs see a guy like Jacob Mizorowski and want to just hit a Jacob Mizorowski, and then vice versa when the Cubs have this guy Cade Horton or some of these other pitchers that they have that are pitching really well, that rivalry will start budding. But right now it feels like you said, the fans and the media pushing this kind of fake rivalry when it's really just good baseball happening.
And it's interesting you bring up Cade Horton because Cade Horton pitched really well his last couple of times out. I was reading on him. They're monitoring his pitch count and his innings count. He's going to pitch like once a week now going forward, it looks like. So they're in a similar situation with their young guy in Horton, kind of like the Brewers are with Mizorowski, where they don't want to push things too much because you want him to be able to pitch in the postseason. And by pushing him so far back every time means you're definitely going to have a weaker pitcher having to take a start here or there and potentially lose the game. And there's a great piece. I encourage you to read it as a Brewers fan. There's a great piece on ESPN about whether or not the Cubs are a championship caliber roster and so forth. It's very encouraging as a Brewers fan to read that piece. I highly suggest reading it and smiling because as you read it, it talks about the starting rotation that they're really not sold on other than Imanaga, the bullpen that they're really not sold on either. The offensive piece, they are very high on their offense, as we all are. We all know they can hit, right? But they pointed out in that piece that if it's a left-handed starter, if Tucker doesn't play well, which he normally does against lefties, if he doesn't, Cubs got no chance because the rest of that lineup doesn't hit lefties all that well, and Tucker's the one that stirs the drink normally against lefties if that offense is going to score. So to me, I read that today, and I was like, hey, all right, more good news for the Brewers fans if we get stuck with this team in the postseason. And again, don't forget, five-game series coming up on August 18th. All right, we're going to put a poll question up related to the Milwaukee Brewers. We touched on this briefly at the very, very end of the show, in the last couple minutes of the show, and we didn't have the audio. We got the audio now. So Sean Casey, who I believe we're going to have on the show next week, Sean Casey's been on MLB Network forever and a day. The Mayor's Office is his podcast that he does. He was talking about the Milwaukee Brewers and said this.
But these guys come at you, Chinch. They're like fire ants. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, man, I just stepped in a fire ant thing, and the guys, one's in my underwear, one's in my neck, one's in my hat. How did this happen? That's the Milwaukee Brewers, dude. They're like a bunch of fire ants. The average Joes, he calls them. But they're like the fire ants. Like, can't get rid of them, and all of a sudden you're destroyed, and they're just winning. Dude, they're winning. They're like coming for you. They're not winning 1-0, 2-1. They're swinging it, and they have a lot of players that we don't even know who these guys are.
I love it. So Sean Casey called the Brewers fire ants, right? And as far as they're annoying, they're in your ear, they're in your mouth, they're in your eye before you know it, it's over. And I thought that was pretty funny. So we put up a poll question. What animal, insect, would you describe this Brewers team as? Vote right now at the Fan Milwaukee on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, at the Fan Milwaukee. What are our options, Charlie? I let Charlie pick the options.
So I did our options that me and you picked from yesterday when we were discussing what animals we think they are.
Right.
So I have fire ants on there as an option just in case you agree with Sean Casey. That's fine. Go for it. I also have what Sparky said yesterday, which was a jaguar,
yes.
Hidden, sleeky in the dark, but is still going to be deadly. And then my option, which was ostriches. Sneaky fast, one of the fastest animals in the entire animal kingdom. Can be pretty mean looking if they're coming straight at you. And then I also put other comment below. So if you guys have any other ideas of what animals this team could be, let us know.
So you didn't go with peacock then?
I didn't go with peacock. I don't know if Jack wants to put it in there. He can.
You didn't go with peacock. I'm just saying it would have fit after what happened earlier this morning. All right, see Sparky Fifer with you. Charlie, use it over there. I'm interested to see how this all plays out because it's something fun. It's catchy, whatever. Take a poll question, fun question here on a Friday, not getting too serious about things here on a Friday. Speaking of not getting too serious, that Wendy's breakfast, baby. Woo-wee. Here's a side never skip breakfast. Wendy's breakfast biscuits are just $1. Your choice of a buttermilk biscuit with grilled sausage or bacon with egg and melty cheese, or even the Honey Buddy with juicy chicken and maple honey butter for just $1. You can't go wrong unless you forget to add the delicious seasoned potatoes, or the warm, fluffy French toast sticks, or even the ooey gooey cinnamon. Come on, start your day the right way with Buck Biscuits at Wendy's. Don't look back. Limited time only. Head to Wendy's today to get your breakfast on for sure. Coming up on the other side of a quick timeout, I want to get to our guy Shams Charania. Now, before you change the channel and you get all mad at me, oh my God, here we go again. Sparky talking about Giannis. We ain't talking about Giannis. It ain't about Giannis. It ain't about the Bucks. I mean, you can bring it up in your conversation, your response to me, if you like, to point out pieces with Giannis. That's fine. But that's not what this is about. Shams Charania was on it was a podcast, right? It wasn't a TV show.
No, it was a YouTube series that they're starting now.
Very good. So it's like all these insiders that are together all talking about their deal. Like Adam Schefter was on there, and Adam Schefter broke a story during them doing their podcast show or whatever on YouTube. It was, who was it, Kyron Williams?
It was the Kyron Williams deal.
Yeah.
So the show's called The Sports Reporters. It was a show that was on ESPN like 15 years ago, and then they just brought it back now on YouTube with Jeff Passan, Adam Schefter, and Shams Charania.
I'd rather have that on TV because I'm not going to remember to go there to watch that during the week.
You're a YouTube guy now, Sparky. You gotta know. You can head over there.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but I'm just telling you, I'm not going to remember. I mean, unless they're advertising it on TV or somewhere where I see it for me to remember, it's going to be hard to remember what time and what day it launches and whatever else. But it's a great idea. I wish it was on TV because then I could DVR it and not forget it and be able to watch it. So anyways, so they're on. And the story goes that everybody in the Philadelphia 76ers organization was mad last year at Shams Charania for pointing out something that happened behind closed doors in a meeting after the 76ers started off poorly with Joel Embiid, and Shams talked about the reaction.
Tyrese Maxey essentially calling out Joel Embiid in a team meeting, a players-only meeting, for being tardy and needing to show more accountability. And I wouldn't say I received backlash for that story, but I received a lot of, who gave you that? How did you hear that? Who was your source? And to me, those are the best stories, is when no one knows who the source is, but they're throwing guesses, and like it's always 99% wrong. Like I saw a quote. Joel Embiid actually said, like, I know who the source is. I know who my main source was. I'd be stunned if he knows who that is. So it's like, it's always funny to get the reactions of that. But I think those are the best stories for sure. And I saw what Jeff did there. And so for me, my job is to be a servant for the audience. I'm sure Adam and Jeff feel the same way. Like we're here as messengers of information, accurate, fair, responsible journalism. And that's kind of how I approach it every single day. And, I mean, I dealt with it with the Jimmy Butler stuff. Like I knew my sourcing on it, and I knew the conversations I was having with people, but I would report, he prefers to be traded. These are his teams. And, you'd see Pat Riley issue a statement saying, we are not trading Jimmy Butler. So like, you're always going to be dealing with things. To me, I just keep my head down. I'm sure these guys do as well. And just, we know what our sourcing is. And as long as we are comfortable with the information and we do the work, like that's all you can rely on.
There is Shams Charania. My question is simple. We'll take a quick time out and we'll get your answers. We'll get Charlie's answer. I'll give you my answer. Do you think insiders in sports get a bad rap from fans? Do you think insiders get a bad rap? Now, you can pick whoever you like, right? You can talk about Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport. You can talk about Shams Charania, whoever you want to pick from. The different insiders, Ken Rosenthal, John Heyman, Bob Nightingale, whoever you want to pick from for baseball, basketball, football. I don't know any NHL insiders. I don't know. Is that even a thing in the NHL? I don't know.
Probably.
I'm guessing so. Yeah, I don't even know. I couldn't even name you one. I'm sorry. I'm very bad with NHL hockey. But these insiders that cover sports, do you think they get a bad rap from you, the fan, for the work that they do? I have a feeling I know which way this is going to go, but we'll see. I'll give it a fair shot. Nicolay Law Fan talking. Text line 414-677-1250, 888-677-1250. Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. Also, don't forget, you can chat with us on YouTube. Just search The Fan Milwaukee on YouTube, live streaming all of our shows. You can watch videos. You can watch all the different shorts we post throughout the day as well, including on the weekends. That's right. There's stuff on Saturdays and Sundays that will be posted as well, including live streaming Charlie Usen and Jack Pembroke's show, Wisconsin Sports Weekend, from 9 to 11. Charlie, what's on the docket for tomorrow?
Got a lot of fun tomorrow, so we got to go over this Brewers-Mets game that's happening tonight. Hopefully it ends in a big win for that team. Then we have Jets-Packers tomorrow night, which is going to be a lot of fun. I love the NFL season, NFL preseason. I want to dig into that game, talk about the players that we are most excited to see. And then we got Mount Pixmore. I think we did pretty good this week, so you want to stay tuned for that at 10:20.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see how that all plays out tomorrow, 9 to 11. And again, you can watch it right there on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. The Fan Milwaukee on YouTube. Don't forget, 3 o'clock, Andrew Wagner will go inside the clubhouse. Forbes Brewers writer will join us from American Family Field at 3 as we get ready for Brewers and Mets tonight. And, of course, the leadoff show, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, from 6 to 7 tonight with Tommy Wirtz getting ready for first pitch here on The Fan. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios. Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook here at the Wisconsin State Fair, broadcasting outside the Expo Building, looking at the Milk House. Welcome back It is Wisconsin Sports Daily. Served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin State Fair, right by the Expo Building, looking over at the Milk House. Don't forget, get ready for Brewers and Mets tonight. Leadoff show, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, 1 hour before every game here on The Fan, with Tommy Wirtz getting ready for the first pitch tonight from 6 until 7 o'clock. All right, talking about this Shams Charania, his thoughts on how he's an insider, how he covers stories, how the Sixers and fans were all mad at him for reporting this story where Maxey called out Joel Embiid in a behind-the-scenes meeting after they got off to a rough start. Here is Shams Charania one more time talking about that story.
Tyrese Maxey essentially calling out Joel Embiid in a team meeting, a players-only meeting, for being tardy and needing to show more accountability. And I wouldn't say I received backlash for that story, but I received a lot of, who gave you that? How did you hear that? Who was your source? And to me, those are the best stories, is when no one knows who the source is, but they're throwing guesses, and like it's always 99% wrong. Like I saw a quote Joel Embiid actually said, like, I know who the source is. I know who my main source was. I'd be stunned if he knows who that is. So it's like, it's always funny to get the reactions of that. But I think those are the best stories for sure. And I saw what Jeff did there. And so for me, my job is to be a servant for the audience. I'm sure Adam and Jeff feel the same way. Like we're here as messengers of information, accurate, fair, responsible journalism. And that's kind of how I approach it every single day. And, I dealt with it with the Jimmy Butler stuff. Like I knew my sourcing on it, and I knew the conversations I was having with people, but I would report, he prefers to be traded. These are his teams. And, you'd see Pat Riley issue a statement saying we are not trading Jimmy Butler. So like you're always going to be dealing with things. To me, I just keep my head down. I'm sure these guys do as well. And just we know what our sourcing is. And as long as we are comfortable with the information and we do the work, like that's all you can rely on.
All right, Charlie's going to read the responses on Twitter. He'll read the responses on Facebook as well that we have coming in here to this question. The question is simple. Do you think insiders get a bad rap in sports from fans? Because I had a chuckle when Shams Charania said honest journalism and all that stuff that he said, because how many Bucks fans are livid at him, don't trust on any reporting he has on Giannis, think he's making stuff up? I mean, I don't know. Maybe across the entire country, everybody acts like fans in this town, where if you hear something you don't like from an insider, you immediately start accusing them of lying, making stuff up, not trusting them. They're wrong. I know more than them, even though you don't have a single source. You know everything. It drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely crazy. I agree with you. Charania is the only one that's been standing on the Giannis thing. Fine, I get it. But it's not the only time that everybody has had issues with insiders in this town, regardless if it's local insiders, national insiders, whoever it may be. Listen, they're not getting paid what they're getting paid if their bosses think that they're making crap up, if their bosses think they don't have legitimate sources, if they haven't been right significantly more than they've been wrong. How do you think these people have jobs and stay employed? It's not by making crap up. I mean, he brings up the Joel Embiid story and saying everybody takes guesses at who the source is. Yep, we did the same thing on this show in regards to Giannis guessing who the source was on why he won't shut up about this. And I guess, and I'm staying with my guess, and I'm probably wrong, but my guess is it's Giannis' agents pushing this narrative to Shams, and that's why this thing won't die. Because if they wanted to die, Giannis would have already made a public statement and ended this crap. And he chooses not to. But anyways, so that's that part of it. Bob Nightingale, Charlie. Bob Nightingale catches more flack on social media for stuff that he reports one way or the other all the time. He catches flack on social media. Ken Rosenthal, he catches flack all the time on social media. Adam Schefter, during that whole Aaron Rodgers fiasco, was getting lambasted by Packers fans for being an idiot and not knowing what is going on.
Is it fair to say people are jealous sometimes, Sparky? Like, that's kind of where I'm coming from with this.
I don't think it's jealous. I just think They don't want to hear what's being said to them, so they call them idiots, and they're making stuff up, and they're lying. And then when they are right about a player, the player knows these fans aren't going to listen to him. They're going to listen to me because they love me. They have nobody's wearing a Schefter jersey. Nobody's wearing a Shams Charania jersey, right? Nobody's wearing a Bob Nightingale or John Heyman jersey, but they are wearing Giannis's jersey. They're wearing Aaron Rodgers' jerseys, right? So from that perspective, the fan is always going to believe the player before they believe the reporter, even though the player may be lying to them blatantly right in front of their face because they know the fans are going to believe them first.
Yeah, I can see that. But also, these guys, these insiders, yes, maybe they're not best friends with these players. Yes, maybe they're not talking directly to the players to get this information, but they're the ones that are closest to the players. They're the ones that are closest to this lifestyle without actually being in the lifestyle, without being a coach or without being a player. And I think there are fans of the sports that don't want to believe what these guys are saying, don't want to believe the reports that are coming out, because I think there is reality in people wanting to do what these guys do, going out there and live their life just living and breathing sports constantly, and they can't do that. So when these guys are putting out these giant reports that are like the biggest news stories of their life, these are huge things. When Luka gets traded and Shams gets to be the guy to break that, that's a pretty big deal for his career and what he wants to do moving forward. I think there are people that probably wish they could break the Luka story too.
Yeah, that's probably true. But I mean, Sharania's not at the point of having to prove himself, right? That's not where he's at. Now, like a guy like Evan Sidri, who nobody knew a couple of years ago, he's just kind of popped out of the scene. He's trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to grow his brand. Chris Haynes, who's an NBA insider, you know, him and Lillard, he grew his brand over the course of time. And he continues to grow it, and he's making a ton of money. He started from being just a guy, started gaining traction and building sources, and then was able to build to where he is. You're right. These guys need to break one or two major stories to get some of these other people to buy in. I'll give you another one. Mike Florio is a perfect example of this. Mike Florio got more wrong than he got right when he started doing this thing. Because back then, Charlie, pro football talk was a thing, but there was also MLB talk, there was basketball talk, college basketball talk, and he had writers across all of them. And then eventually he got rid of everything and just focused on the NFL, which is fine. But I can tell you, back in like 2005, 2006, and back then, dude, he was getting stuff wrong all the time. But he'd pop one here, he'd pop one there, he'd pop one there. And then eventually he started getting more right than he was getting wrong, built that track record, and next thing you know, he's on NBC. But it took time to build to get to that point. And today, where are we today? If Mike Florio says something negative about the Packers, what is the response from the fans to that when that happens?
Shut up, man.
You're an idiot. You're a Vikings fan. You hate the Packers. That's all it is, right? Now, sometimes, I agree. Sometimes did it feel like maybe he had a personal thing against Aaron Rodgers? Yep. And I don't know if he would agree to that or not, but it definitely felt like he was hunting on Rodgers a little bit. But even in that regard, everybody was covering Rodgers with a negative light one way or the other. It felt like there weren't very many people shining a positive light on Aaron Rodgers at the end as he was switching teams to the Jets, with his time with the Jets and so forth. So it wasn't just Florio. But my point stands, which is I really think that most fans do not appreciate or respect the job that most of these insiders do across the country.
No, they don't. And I think it's kind of frustrating at points because, yes, I understand that these guys get things wrong. But I think when you look back at, like you're talking about, when Mike Florio was running all those different accounts and was getting things wrong, I don't think people really get on him at that point when he got things wrong. It was more, it was wrong, we ignored it, move on. But when he got something right, it's a big deal. I think when you're looking at these guys that are in the bigger positions now, the Shams Charanias, the Adam Schefters, and the Jeff Passons, I think it's a little bit more frustrating when those guys get things wrong. And I think when you are trusting them to give you the right information, that can kind of bum you out when it's not the right information or when it's not enough information and they're just putting things out there that are kind of vague or don't really make sense based on what you've heard from other people around. So, yeah, I think these guys sometimes do deserve a bad rap because they've gotten to this point in their career where they shouldn't really be getting things wrong at that point. At the same time, they're human beings who are trying to report things as fast as possible in order for fans to enjoy the sport as quickly as possible. I think 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you had to wait until the next morning to hear a lot of this news. And now Shams Charania and Adam Schefter are staying up till 3 a.m. giving you alerts about what's happening. I think we should appreciate that more than be mad at them for maybe getting things wrong when it's 3 in the morning and they haven't slept in 3 days.
And the other thing that happens that I've talked about in the past is these guys get steered into a direction sometimes from sources that want them to help their side of the trade, to help their side of negotiations with a player, to help their side of whatever, building a case to fire somebody. Whatever it may be, they push a narrative toward. It may not be the right narrative, but they're going to go with it because he's been a trusted source for so long, or she's been a trusted source, so he goes with it, and then maybe later you find out, well, that's not necessarily true, but you trusted them because they've given you good information in the past, and then you get burned, and then it's like, you're an idiot, you don't know how to do your job. Well, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, if you've had a trusted source, they've been good to you the whole time, and you've been right on all these stories, and you're rolling with the same person or two. So now, again, the other part about this insider thing is normally how this works is for any reporter, you should have 2 or 3 sources confirming the same thing before you report something. It's a big no-no to take one person's, story and go, all right, sources say here, and you don't go to other sources. So I would assume, and I've not seen that whole insiders thing, but I would assume a Schefter and these guys are getting 2, 3 sources on certain stories before they go. The thing that makes me a little bit nervous is when you talk about the Philadelphia 76ers story, what did he say? My source. It wasn't my source is, it was my source, right? So I don't know if he was right or wrong or whatever, but it sounds like he had one person and not 2 or 3, and normally that is the golden rule at the end of the day, Charlie.
I also think it differs on what that source is, though, and I think a lot of these guys like Shams, who are...
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. If the source was Tyrese Maxey calling him and being like, I just chewed out Embiid and blah, 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 and I'm your source, go with it, then, okay, you don't have to go with more than one source, right?
That's what I'm saying. If there was like somebody in the locker room, somebody on the coaching staff, somebody on the team in that aspect. And I think when you look at a guy like Shams, when you look at these Schefters and even Jeff Passan to some degree, they are a lot closer to the actual players than I think we've seen other insiders be in a while. And I think we saw that this past year when Brian Windhorst was trying to claim that he's like best friends with LeBron James. And LeBron was like, no, I don't really know you like that. But I guarantee you Brian Windhorst and LeBron James have sat down and had dinner probably at least once or twice at some point in this entire time because they have gone through this process together. And he is one of the biggest reporters on television at this point. These guys are celebrities more than they are insiders at this point in the sports media world. I think because of that, I think they have bigger sources sometimes. So in a situation like this, I think, yeah, there was maybe somebody in the locker room that he can confidently say is a source told me.
This is the other part about this. And again, I'm not asking you to feel sorry for them because they're making millions of dollars, right? I mean, Sharani's making millions, Schefter's making millions, Rosenthal, all these guys are making millions. But they don't really have a shutoff period. No matter what is going on, their phone is on. Phones. Sometimes you have 2 or 3 phones, and you're constantly getting stuff. And if it's the middle of the night or whatever, and you get something like, oh, man, this is big, we got to go, and then you stop doing whatever you're doing. Could be playing with your kids, could be doing something with your significant other, could be at an amusement park, and you got to go step away and do something. That's what the job calls. How many of you, when you're done with your job, just turn off your phone and go do whatever you're going to do and don't worry about your job till the next day when you go back? How many do that? Now, not every job you can do that in, but a lot of jobs, if you work somewhere, a store, a bank, or whatever, a lot of times you're done at 5 o'clock. Not going to hear about work until tomorrow morning when I go back. Meantime, I can do everything else with my family and watch TV and enjoy it. And some jobs you can't do that, Charlie.
No, you can't. But again, these guys are getting paid millions of dollars to do what they're doing. Again, do something that a lot of people that are sitting watching sports on a daily basis wish they could be doing as well. So it comes with that job. It comes with that lifestyle. And I think a lot of these guys understand that. And yes, you have to go out there, and it's hard to live that life. When you're coming home to a penthouse apartment, I think it makes it feel a little bit better.
Here's Charlie Houston, see Sparky Fifer, Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM at 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, out here at the Wisconsin State Fair outside the Expo Building, looking at the Milk House. Speaking of the Potawatomi Sportsbook, Brewers game day shuttles now starting. Hitch a ride to home games, that's right, because get your seat, secure your seat with any purchase in the Potawatomi Sportsbook or same-day sports bet. Seating is limited and on a first-come, first-served basis. This starts today, and they start running shuttles an hour before the game, and they run through 1 hour after the game. So instead of paying parking prices and all of that stuff and dealing with all the people, you can get dropped off right up front and then get a ride right back to Potawatomi, where the parking is free, by the way. And if you have a same-day bet, you got the Brewers beating the Mets tonight, whatever else, go to the game, Brewers beat the Mets, go back, cash your ticket, make some money, hop in your car, and go home. It's a no-brainer. Potawatomi Sportsbook, take advantage of their game day shuttles for Brewers games for the remainder of all home games this season. Go to Potawatomi, make a bet, whatever the case may be, hop on the shuttle, and go on over to the game. All right, coming up next, Drew Wagner. We're going to try and get to him maybe a little bit earlier than 3 o'clock because we have Matt Murphy talking today. He's got to get down for the leadoff show coming up at 6 o'clock with Tommy Wirtz. And now we just found out Shelby Miller, the newest Brewers pitcher, is going to be talking with the media coming up at 3:15. So we have to get him out in time to not miss Shelby Miller. So let's get to go inside the clubhouse with Drew Wagner of Forbes Sports, brought to you by Focus Baseball. That's next here on The Fan.